It's 3:12 a.m. on December 11th, 1978. JFK Airport is dead quiet. Then suddenly, 6 masked men with guns burst into a cargo building. They know exactly where to go. They know exactly what they're looking for. In just 64 minutes, they walk away with $5.8 million. That's $28 million in today's money. The biggest cash heist in US history at that time. But here's what will shock you. The robbery wasn't the real crime. What happened next turned this perfect heist into a bloodbath that would claim more lives than anyone could have imagined. By the end of this video, you'll understand why most of the crew didn't live to enjoy their fortune. You'll discover the fatal mistake that turned partners into targets. And you'll learn why 46 years later, almost $30 million is still missing. The mastermind thought he had planned the perfect crime. He was wrong. Dead wrong. Literally. This is the story of the Lufthansa Heist, and why greed became everyone's death sentence. The setup, how it all began. Every great heist starts with someone desperate, and Louis Werner was drowning. Picture a middle-aged cargo supervisor at JFK Airport. Married, kids, normal life. But Werner had a secret that was destroying him. He was a gambling addict, and he owed the wrong people serious money. By 1978, Werner was in deep. We're talking about debts that could get you hurt, or worse. He needed cash fast, and that's when he realized something. He had access to information worth millions. You see, Werner worked for Lufthansa Airlines. Every Monday, like clockwork, a shipment arrived from West Germany. Cash, lots of it, American dollars that German tourists had exchanged for Deutsche Marks. The money came back to New York to be redistributed to banks. Werner knew the schedule. He knew the amounts. He knew the security procedures. But he wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was just a desperate man with valuable information. So Werner did what desperate people do. He reached out to someone who knew how to use that information. Someone connected to the mob. That someone was Henry Hill. Hill wasn't a made man, but he was connected to the Lucas crime family. More importantly, he knew Jimmy Burke. And Jimmy Burke was exactly the kind of man you called when you had a big score in mind. Burke was different from other mobsters. They called him Jimmy the Gent because he was always polite, always calm. But don't let that fool you. Burke was a stone-cold killer who had turned robbery into an art form. When Hill brought Werner's information to Burke, the wheels started turning. JFK Airport was a goldmine waiting to be cracked. Minimal security, predictable schedules, and now they had an inside man. Burke saw the opportunity immediately. This wasn't just about one heist. This was about the perfect target, the perfect plan. Jimmy Burke didn't rush into anything. That's why he had survived so long in a business where most people ended up dead or in prison. For months, Burke studied Werner's intelligence like a general planning a military campaign. Floor plans of the cargo building, guard rotations, delivery schedules, every detail mattered. The target was Building 261 at JFK Airport, specifically the Lufthansa cargo area on the 2nd floor. That's where the money sat, every Monday morning, waiting to be processed. Werner painted the picture perfectly. The weekend shift was smaller, security was lighter, and the vault that held the cash, it wasn't Fort Knox. It was just a secure room with a combination lock that Werner knew. But Burke was smart. He knew that the key to any successful heist wasn't just getting in and out. It was choosing the right crew, people who could handle pressure, people who could follow orders, and most importantly, people who could keep their mouths shut. Burke handpicked his team. Tommy DeSimone, a violent enforcer who'd killed before. Stax Edwards, a skilled getaway driver. Martin Krugman, who helped with logistics. Each man had skills Burke needed. The original intelligence suggested they'd find about $2 million. A huge score, but manageable. Burke planned every detail around that number. The entry plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Werner would make sure certain doors were unlocked. The crew would enter during the night shift when fewer people were around. They'd tie up the guards, open the vault, take the money, and disappear. No alarms needed to be disabled. No complex security systems to bypass. Just walk in, take the money, walk out. Burke set one critical rule for everyone involved. After the heist, lay low. Don't spend anything unusual. Don't buy flashy cars or expensive jewelry. Don't do anything that would attract attention. It seemed foolproof. Burke had planned dozens of successful robberies before, but this time he had no idea what they were really walking into. Because when they opened that vault on December 11th, they didn't find $2 million. They found something that would change everything, and sign most of their death warrants. The heist, 64 minutes that changed everything. December 11th, 1978, 3:12 a.m. The graveyard shift at JFK Airport was in full swing. 6 men in dark clothing and ski masks approached Building 261. They moved with purpose. No running, no panic, just professional criminals doing what they did best. Werner had done his job perfectly. The doors were unlocked exactly as planned. The security cameras in that area had mysteriously malfunctioned. Everything was falling into place. The crew entered the building like they owned it. They knew exactly where to go. Second floor, Lufthansa cargo area. They had studied the layout for months. Inside, they found exactly what Werner had promised. A handful of cargo workers processing the Monday morning shipments. Night shift employees who were just trying to get through another boring shift. But this shift was about to become unforgettable. The crew moved fast but stayed calm. Guns drawn, but no shouting. No unnecessary violence. Burke had trained them well. Keep it professional, keep it quiet. They zip-tied the workers' hands behind their backs. Told them to lie face down on the floor. No one would get hurt if everyone stayed calm and followed instructions. One of the workers, a supervisor named Kerry Whalen, had the combination to the secure room. Under the pressure of 6 armed men, he gave it up without hesitation. This is where the plan was supposed to be simple. Open the vault, take the 2 million, leave. But when they opened that door, everything changed. Instead of the expected cash bags, they found 72 cardboard cartons, box after box of cash. More money than they had ever seen in one place. Way more than the 2 million they were expecting. They started loading boxes into their van. 1 box, 2 boxes, 10 boxes. The money just kept coming. But here's what made this crew professional. Even with all that unexpected cash staring at them, they didn't lose their heads. They didn't start celebrating. They just kept working. Methodically, they loaded box after box, cash, jewelry, gold chains, traveler's checks. It was like hitting the lottery, but they treated it like just another day at the office. By 4:16 a.m., exactly 64 minutes after they entered the building, the crew was gone. They had taken $5.8 million in cash, plus jewelry and gold worth hundreds of thousands more. No shots fired, no one injured, no alarms triggered. It was by every measure, the perfect crime. The cargo workers waited 30 minutes after the crew left before they untied themselves and called security. By then, the crew had vanished into the New York night. Burke's plan had worked flawlessly, better than flawlessly. Instead of 2 million, they had scored almost 6 million. The biggest cash heist in American history. But as the crew celebrated their incredible luck, none of them realized they had just signed their own death warrants. The fatal mistake, when greed turns deadly. Jimmy Burke had one simple rule after the heist. One rule that could have kept everyone alive. Lay low, spend nothing, act normal. Burke knew that sudden wealth was like a neon sign for law enforcement. Buy a new car, suspicious. Take an expensive vacation, red flag. Start throwing money around, death sentence. He gave every crew member the same warning. Take your cut and sit on it, for at least 6 months, maybe a year. Let the heat die down. Then slowly, carefully, enjoy your fortune. It was smart advice from a man who had pulled off dozens of successful robberies. But greed makes people stupid, and Burke's crew was about to prove just how stupid greed could make you. Within days of the heist, the mistake started. Stax Edwards was supposed to dispose of the getaway van immediately. Crush it, burn it, make it disappear forever. Instead, he left it parked on the street in Brooklyn, for days. When the FBI found the van, it was loaded with fingerprints and evidence. Edwards had basically gift-wrapped a confession for the police, but that was just the beginning. Martin Krugman, who had helped with the logistics, suddenly started living like a king. New clothes, expensive dinners. He was spending money faster than most people could count it. Tommy DeSimone bought his girlfriend a new car. Not just any car, a flashy sports car that screamed, "I just came into money." Even Henry Hill, who should have known better, started spending recklessly. Drugs, parties, expensive gifts. He was acting like he'd won the lottery. Each crew member thought they were being smart. They thought they were being careful. But in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone's business, sudden wealth was impossible to hide, and Burke was watching everything. See, Burke wasn't just the mastermind of this heist. He was a paranoid killer who had survived in the mob world by eliminating threats before they became problems. As FBI pressure mounted, as investigators started connecting dots, Burke realized something terrifying. His crew wasn't just attracting attention to themselves, they were attracting attention to him. Every flashy purchase, every stupid mistake, every careless moment was leading law enforcement straight to Jimmy Burke's door. That's when Burke made a decision that would haunt the remaining crew members for the rest of their very short lives. If the crew couldn't be trusted to stay quiet, then the crew needed to disappear. All of them. Burke began planning something far more sinister than the original heist. He started planning a massacre, because in Jimmy Burke's world, dead men tell no tales, and loose ends had a habit of sending people to prison for life. The perfect crime was about to become the perfect cover-up, and the body count was about to start climbing. The body count, paranoia, and murder. What happened next turned the Lufthansa heist from a brilliant robbery into a horror story. Burke's paranoia wasn't just in his head. The FBI was closing in. They had found the van. They were asking questions in the neighborhood. They were connecting names to faces, and every day Burke's crew kept making it worse. So Burke did what career criminals do when they feel cornered. He started eliminating problems. The first to die was Stax Edwards. Edwards wasn't just careless with the getaway van. He was also known to talk too much when he was drinking, and he was drinking a lot since the heist. Burke sent Tommy DeSimone to handle the problem. DeSimone found Edwards at his apartment and put 6 bullets in him. Just like that, the getaway driver became the first casualty of the perfect crime. But Burke was just getting started. Next was Tommy DeSimone himself. Ironically, DeSimone thought he was safe because he was the one doing Burke's dirty work. He was wrong. Burke knew that DeSimone was violent and unpredictable. Worse, he knew too much. In January 1979, DeSimone was told he was being made, officially inducted into the Lucchese family. It was supposed to be the greatest honor of his criminal career. Instead, it was his execution. DeSimone went to what he thought was his induction ceremony. His body was never found. The official story was that he had been killed for an unrelated murder, but everyone in Burke's crew knew the real reason. Burke was cleaning house. The murders kept coming, each one more brutal than the last. Martin Krugman, the man who had helped plan the logistics, started getting nervous. He could see the pattern. Crew members were disappearing one by one. Krugman made the mistake of confronting Burke about it. He wanted reassurance that he was safe. Instead, he sealed his own fate. Burke had Krugman kidnapped, tortured for information about what he might have told police, then killed. His body was never recovered. Joe Buddha Manry, who had provided some of the equipment for the heist, was found shot to death in his car. Frenchie McMahon, another crew member, simply vanished. No body, no trace, just gone. Louis Kafora and his wife were found dead in their car, shot execution style. One by one, Burke was systematically murdering everyone connected to the heist, partners who had trusted him, friends who had helped make him rich. The most chilling part? Burke wasn't killing them in fits of rage. These were calculated, cold-blooded executions. He was crossing names off a list. Each murder sent a message to the survivors: keep your mouth shut, or you're next. But the killing spree had an unintended consequence. It created even more heat from law enforcement. The FBI knew they were dealing with something bigger than just a robbery. They were looking at a criminal organization that was willing to kill its own people to stay free. And through it all, Jimmy Burke maintained his calm, polite demeanor. He kept running his legitimate businesses. He kept playing the role of a respectable member of the community. But behind the scenes, he was orchestrating one of the most brutal cover-ups in criminal history. The perfect heist had become a bloodbath, and the man who had planned it all was still out there. Still dangerous, still killing anyone who might threaten his freedom. By the time the murders stopped, more people had died because of the Lufthansa heist than during any robbery in American history. Burke had solved his loose ends problem, but he had created an even bigger one. Because now, instead of investigating a robbery, the FBI was investigating a massacre. And somewhere in New York, one man knew all the details about both the heist and the murders that followed. His name was Henry Hill, and he was about to make a decision that would change everything. The aftermath: justice denied. By 1980, Jimmy Burke had successfully eliminated almost everyone who could testify against him. Almost everyone. Henry Hill was still alive, but not because Burke had gone soft. Hill was still useful. He was generating money for Burke through drug deals and other schemes. But Hill knew his usefulness wouldn't last forever. Hill also knew something else. Burke was planning to kill him too. The paranoia that had driven Burke to murder his own crew was now focused on Hill. And Hill could read the signs. Other people in Burke's circle were asking questions about Hill's loyalty. Burke was testing him in ways that felt like preparation for elimination. That's when Hill made the smartest decision of his criminal career. He decided to stay alive by talking to the FBI. In May 1980, Hill was arrested on drug charges. Facing serious prison time, he made a deal that would destroy what remained of Burke's organization. Hill became a federal witness. He told investigators everything: the planning, the execution, the murders, all of it. But here's the frustrating part of this story. Even with Hill's testimony, justice was hard to come by. Louis Werner, the inside man whose gambling debts started everything, was the only person actually convicted for the Lufthansa heist itself. He got 15 years in prison. He served his time and disappeared into obscurity. Jimmy Burke, the mastermind who planned the robbery and orchestrated the massacre, was never officially charged with the Lufthansa heist. The evidence was mostly circumstantial, and his key witnesses were dead. Burke did go to prison, but for other crimes. He died behind bars in 1996, taking his secrets with him. Tommy DeSimone was already dead, murdered by Burke himself. Most of the other crew members were also dead, victims of Burke's cleanup operation. Henry Hill entered the witness protection program and lived under assumed names for the rest of his life. He died in 2012, having outlived almost everyone connected to the heist. But the biggest injustice of all? The money. $5.8 million in cash, hundreds of thousands in jewelry and gold. Almost none of it was ever recovered. The FBI searched for years. They followed leads. They questioned suspects. They offered rewards. Nothing. The money had simply vanished. Some investigators believe Burke hid the money before he went to prison. Others think it was divided among surviving members of his organization who weren't directly involved in the heist. The truth is, nobody knows for sure where nearly $30 million in today's money went. In 2014, almost 36 years after the heist, there was one final attempt at justice. Vincent Asaro, a member of the Bonanno crime family who was allegedly involved in the robbery, was arrested and charged. The trial was huge news. Finally, someone would face justice for the Lufthansa heist. But in 2015, Asaro was acquitted. The jury wasn't convinced by the evidence. Once again, the Lufthansa heist had defeated the justice system. So what did the Lufthansa heist accomplish? Besides making a few criminals temporarily rich and permanently dead, it changed airport security forever. After the heist, airports across America upgraded their security systems. Better cameras, better locks, better procedures for handling large amounts of cash. The days of walking into a cargo building with minimal security were over. The heist also gave us one of the greatest crime movies ever made. Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas was based largely on Henry Hill's story, including the Lufthansa heist. The movie made the crime famous, but it also romanticized it. In Hollywood, the heist looked exciting and glamorous. The reality was much darker. The Lufthansa heist was a story of betrayal, paranoia, and murder. It showed what happens when greed overrides loyalty and common sense. Here's the ultimate irony. The crew pulled off what should have been the perfect crime. They found more money than they dreamed of. They executed the plan flawlessly, and it destroyed every single one of them. Jimmy Burke spent his final years in prison, haunted by the empire he had built and destroyed. The crew members who thought they had won the lottery ended up in shallow graves. Even Henry Hill, the sole survivor, spent the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, hiding from the consequences of that December night in 1978. But somewhere out there, $28 million in today's money is still missing. Maybe it's buried in a field in Queens. Maybe it's hidden in a safe deposit box under a fake name. Maybe it was spent decades ago by people smart enough to stay quiet about it. The truth is, we'll probably never know. The Lufthansa heist remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American crime history, a perfect robbery that became an imperfect massacre. And the lesson? Sometimes the biggest score comes with the highest price. In the end, the only people who truly profited from the Lufthansa heist were the ones who weren't there that night. The rest paid for their 64 minutes of criminal perfection with their lives. The money is still out there, the case is still officially open, and Jimmy Burke's legacy lives on as a reminder that in the criminal world, there's no such thing as the perfect crime. There are only perfect consequences.